Welcome back. Another edition of Build Your Legacy Insurance Edition podcast. Today, we've got a special guest here. We've got Lucas from Lift Local joining us to sort of talk about some marketing things. So, Lucas, welcome to the program, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Travis. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. You and I connected a few weeks ago. I went to one of my partners and asked, who's the marketing guru that I need to have a conversation with, and you were the recommendation. So we chatted a few weeks ago, and let's get you introduced to everybody. You're with Live Local. Kind of tell me,
Yeah.
what got you into this space. What attracted you to it. How long you've been doing it. Those fun things.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and grateful to be in the digital marketing space. I kind of fell into it. I think like most people in their careers, I started out in sales and sales leadership, and I think everybody knows in sales that what you want to be successful is you want good leads, right? You want
Right.
good prospects. And so for me, I felt like I had a really good understanding of the sales world and took a job at a startup company that was doing marketing, and they were offering a marketing service to home service professionals. And so I jumped on board there and learned everything I could and really learned to love the principles related to marketing, primarily just because they fuel sales,
Yeah.
right? And ultimately, as I think everyone knows, sales is what fuels the business, right?
For
So,
sure.
so I started learning marketing at a company I worked for several years ago, and learned all I could, and just felt like it was the right time, and things fell into place to start Lift Local. So
Yeah.
it's been 9 years now that I've been running Lift Local, and we've grown a lot and have established ourselves and our brand in the industries we service. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
And I can imagine that sales focus to begin with, then transition into marketing paid off so much for you, because I think it's always the biggest challenge is, sales and marketing, they're one and the same, but depending on what side you're on, you're kind of speaking different languages, right?
Yeah, and it's most often it's through a different channel, right?
Yeah.
In most sales scenarios, you're speaking directly to your prospect, whether that's on the phone or in person. Whereas in marketing, there's not like direct communication, right? You're more focusing on a message that you are pushing through a
Yeah.
channel that you may or may not get any feedback from directly, right? And
Yeah.
that really changes the dynamic of what you say, how you say it, and through which channels you say it.
Yeah.
So
Well, and especially in the insurance world, I remember vividly when I first started talking to some agents about their marketing plans at the time. And I remember one agent in particular was like, we don't do it because we can't track it. We can't tell what's working. And so, I think we see that a lot in the insurance space where, people don't really understand it. They don't track it appropriately. And it's tough for them to tie those dollars to the results at times. But in today's day and age, it's something you got to do.
yeah, and I think understanding the resources that are
Yeah.
available are pretty critical there. There are definitely resources that can help with, we refer to that as attribution, right?
Right.
In marketing,
Right.
we attribute the activity to the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And there are certainly tools on like the technology side
Hmm.
that can help with that. We hear a lot agents saying, every time I get a call, I ask, hey, where did you hear about us? And I appreciate the effort there, but certainly not the most effective way to track
Yeah.
where these inbound opportunities are coming from. So
From your
yeah,
perspective, what are the factors an agent needs to focus on when
yeah.
starting a digital marketing plan?
I think understanding, okay, who's that target customer, and then thinking next from there is where do they spend their time, and
Hmm.
where would we be able to reach them, where they would see our content or our message, right? And so, an example, if we're a commercial lines focused agency, then utilizing an online platform like LinkedIn, for example,
Hmm.
is going to make a lot more sense than if we're focused on personal lines,
Right.
to where we may be wanting to do something on another social platform like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok even, right? And so identifying first, okay, who's our ICP, right? Our ideal customer profile, and then thinking through where do they spend their time, where are they going
Right.
when they look for insurance. And then that I think is kind of leads to that next step of saying, okay, these are the channels or places that we want to be present. And then that can take our mind to this next level of, okay, now how do we get in those places, right?
Right.
And do we have success there? So that would be kind of the next step in that strategy.
So I think you hit on a few things there. One is that ideal client profile. I mean, that's one of the things we talk to our members about all the time, and agents, producers is, honing in on that profile of who's that person you want to do business with. But then you started touching on a few things there, like LinkedIn, social media. Getting started and getting into those spaces. There's some simple things you can do on your own, right, to kind of get to develop that presence. Is there not?
It's challenging to be successful if you don't understand the two parts to really every digital strategy. The
Mm-hmm.
first is traffic, right?
Right.
So what we want is we want traffic. We want people to actually see us and our content. And the second is conversion. So once they see us and our content, we want them to engage,
Right.
right? To make contact.
Yeah.
And we see scenarios where agencies have really good content and a great strategy there, and they're consistent and they're posting, every day or every week or what have you. But then you look at the engagement on that content and it's minimal, right? Like, oh,
Right.
I posted this and got 2 likes and 1 share, what have you. And then that can be really discouraging, right, as an agency, because you're investing in this great content. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
paying someone in-house or a third party, and you're making videos and you're like trying to do all the things that everyone's saying you need to do, and you're just not seeing anything from that, right? At
Yeah.
least not that you can measure. And we totally get how frustrating that can be. And that's primarily because you're missing this other piece, right? Which is, how do we get people to actually see our content,
Right.
right? And so what I do to get traffic on Google is different than what I would do to get traffic on Facebook, for
Right.
example. There's really inexpensive methods. So you can do what's called like a post boost, for example. And I think the minimum spend on that is like $25 on a
Right.
post. So you can go to Facebook and you can say, okay, here's the content. We want you to publish it, and you can actually select a demographic, right,
Mm-hmm.
that meets that ICP. And then you can also select a geography, which most agencies are, targeting the local
Local.
market.
Yeah.
So we can set that, and then we can set like a reach number, and that will be dictating, and match up with the price that we're willing to pay. But I mean, we do this for agents as a part of our service, and we do a monthly post boost, and we're spending anywhere from $25 to $100 on that boost, and you're going to go from getting 1 or 2 interactions with your post to 1 to 2 to 300,
Right.
right? And all of a sudden you're reaching a much broader audience than just your following, and you're starting to get that other piece, which is
The
engagement,
conversion. Yeah.
conversion, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
You kind of hit on something there within that, where people they're actively doing stuff. They've got this great content and they're consistently doing it, but they're not really seeing the results. What's a realistic time frame for an agent to start to see results?
yeah, great question. And the answer is often less desirable than most want. And that answer is, it depends,
Right. Yeah.
So some things to consider are, okay, what are you doing and where are you doing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and then what is the goal of what you're doing? So like there can be some pretty big disconnects, and I'm really glad, Travis, that you brought this up, because we, as someone that's doing marketing, have to understand what is the primary goal of this campaign. Social media is not a place within the insurance realm where we're going to get a lot of direct leads, right? So even though we're talking about getting engagement and getting people to like our content and share, but the goal is more about building our brand, building our reputation in the community, just being engaging, showing that we're active online and
Mm-hmm.
involved. And all those things will indirectly contribute towards actual lead flow, but not directly. Whereas another channel like Google, if you put energy and effort into optimizing your position on Google, then you're going to be getting in front of a proactive buyer who's actually trying to call you for a quote right now. And we've seen it
Yeah.
happen, right? So you could take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get yourself into a position where you're able to start getting more inbound
Okay.
people finding you who are going out and searching for insurance in your local market. And some of the depends there is based on your competitive landscape, right? If there's a
Yeah.
lot of agencies in your area, then it's going to be harder for you to rank well in search
Yeah,
results
you're fighting for that
because you're
market
just
share.
competing against more.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
if I hear you right, really as an agent, when you're looking at this, you need to understand your channels, and you need to understand that there's going to be certain channels that, for lack of a better term, they're a long-term play. And I would say
yeah,
that's probably where your social media comes in. And that's about building a brand. And then our Google is more of I would say short term, but even then, to your point, it's a 6 to 12 month process to get yourself in position to be effective there. And there's a lot of different factors that will come into that as well, like where you are, where you're located, just the competitive landscape you're going to have to deal with to be effective.
So I think we got to look at it in that way too. If we say we're working on Google, it's like, hey, our traffic's going up, right? We
Yeah.
haven't necessarily got a bunch more leads yet, but we're seeing something
Right.
happen, right? And that's how I would measure, okay, should we keep investing in this? Are we
Keep
seeing
growing. And yeah.
something happen, right?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of let that snowball a little bit and be patient with it.
I think patience right there. That's the right word. That's the biggest takeaway in our conversations I've had. And not that it's, quote unquote surprising, but I think that's where a lot of small businesses, not just insurance agents, when it comes to the digital marketing space, there's a lack of patience, and some of it just comes from misunderstanding, unfortunately. So
I think if you're thinking about utilizing a third party because you just don't have the time to create content or to develop a strategy, but maybe you've got a little bit of financial resources and the whole time is money, balance of like how much time is it going to take me and how well am I going to do it versus paying a third party, all of that obviously comes into play. But if you're in a position where you're thinking, hey, I probably could outsource some of this, I could use a company. Hey, like don't feel bad about, having that really honest
yeah,
conversation about, hey, like what can we expect timeline wise? And, but also be okay with the answer being like mine,
yeah,
right? That's a difficult question to answer. And let's look at a variety of factors. And don't think that means that the company you're talking to is giving you the runaround,
right, yeah.
right? That's not what's happening there.
Well,
That's the honest answer,
yeah,
So
I mean, you told me in our conversations that there's times where you'll walk away from somebody because they're not ready for it, and I think that that's to your point, have the conversation, look at it for yourself, and then ultimately from there make a decision on what's best for you. So. But look, man, I know you got to go coach some football this weekend with the boys. Go have some fun. I genuinely appreciate you stepping in and joining us here, and we'll hopefully get you back to kind of go. We did 101 today. We'll do 201 next time.
all right, sounds great. Thank you so much, Travis, for the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lucas.
Okay,
Bye.
see ya.
Thanks for tuning in. You can catch our Build Your Legacy Insurance Edition podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, or send us your topic recommendations at podcast@siaofnc.com. To learn more about what we do, visit us online at www.siaofnc.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week.